Okay, this is our lesson, the first lesson in common factoring. We're going to learn how to factor several different ways. Common factoring is the one that you should always try to do first. Always, and I've got that highlighted here, always look for the greatest common factor first. So if I give you a question that says factor, and as I said, we're going to do factoring several different ways. You should always try to do this first. Okay? Make sure you kind of ingrain that in your head. Always look for a greatest common factor first. Okay, factoring can be thought of as the opposite action of multiplying. It's kind of like going backwards. Always look for a common factor before attempting any other kinds of factoring. That's what I mean here. Always do this first. Today, this is the only thing we're going to do. We're going to common factor. But in the future, remember, you're going to look for this first. If you can do this first, it's going to save yourself some work. All right, so you're going to see these two are the opposites of each other. This is what we started the year with, multiplying. Okay, you would say 8x times 9x is 72x squared, and 8x times negative 1 is negative 8x. Now look at that. That's what we have written here. So what are we supposed to do with that? Well, the topic here is factoring. We are supposed to factor. What is the greatest common factor of these two terms? What is the biggest number that goes into both 72 and 8? Well, I think it would make sense that would be 8. Okay, in other words, we're going to try to divide out 8 out of both of these terms. Can you see that there's also an x that's in common? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to take out an 8x from both of these terms. So if I take 8x out, if I divide 8x into 72x squared, does it make sense? I'm left with 9x. And if I divide 8x by 8x, I'm left with negative 1. This is factoring using the greatest common factor. We've taken out, we've factored out, we've divided out the biggest terms that are in common. All right, and you can always check by multiplying. What's 8x times 9x? That would be 72x squared. What's 8x times negative 1? That would be negative 8x. And you can see that's what we started with. Okay, you can always check, and I would get in the habit of checking. All of the kinds of factoring that we do will have checking as a sort of a way to check to see if your work is correct. Okay, try the next one. We're looking into each of these three terms to see if there's anything in common. And not only do we want what's in common, we want the greatest common factor. So what is the biggest number that goes into 24, 12, and 36? 12. Now take a look, and each term has x. And we have x squared, that's x times x cubed, that's x times x times x, and x. What's in common? There is one x in common. Let's look at the y's. Are there any y's in common? Yes, we only have one y in common. That's the greatest common factor. And w's? No, there's no w's in the first two terms. So this is our greatest common factor here. Now, if we divide that out, what is left? So you're thinking, if I take 12xy and divide into there, what is left? Does it make sense that it's 2x? Right? Quick check. What's 12xy times 2x? It's 24x squared y. Okay, let's take 12xy and divide it into there. What's 12x cubed y cubed divided by 12xy? Well, oh, and there's a negative in front. We've got to keep the negative. 12 divided by 12 is 1. I don't need to write that. X cubed divided by x is x squared. Y cubed divided by y is y squared. Okay. And last, put the 12xy divided into there. And you should get 3w. Okay, again, you can check by multiplying each of these three terms, and you should end up with the original question. All right, check the next one. Okay, greatest common factor. What is in common in these two terms? Well, I can see there's a 5. And I can see there's an x. All right. If I divide 5x into 25x cubed, I end up with 5x squared. Okay. Those of you that are, maybe this is going a little bit fast, what we're looking for here is 25x cubed divided by 5x. Well, 25 divided by 5 is 5. And if you remember how to divide x cubed divided by x, well, you can do this two ways. You can subtract the exponents. 3 take away 1 is a 2. Or you can think of this as being x times x times x. And now, you're canceling out 1x and you're left with x squared. Okay, and 5x divided by 5x. What's 5x divided by 5x? Does that just cancel and give you nothing? No. 5x divided by 5x is actually 1. So you have to write a 1 this time. Okay, we did not need to write the 1 up here. Okay, this 1 right here, because we are saying 1x squared y squared, so that 1 is kind of redundant. You don't need it. But on this one, you do have to have that 1 there. Okay, well, this one looks a little bit strange. What's the common factor here? So take a look at this plus this. Is there anything in common in those two circles? Do you see that there is an x minus y in common? All right, there is an x minus y right here and an x minus y right here. Okay, if I divide each of these by x minus y, what if I divide this by x minus y? Well, x minus y divided by x minus y would be 1. Okay, so what would be left? The 2. Okay, why is it 2? Why not 1? Well, if that cancels out, you would have 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is just 2. Okay, and if I divide out the x minus y here, what's left? 7x. Okay, that one looks kind of weird, but that's the answer. All right, one more. Greatest common factor. 3, 12, and 15. I think 3 is the biggest number that will go into each of those. And if I look at the x's, I have x squared, x cubed, and x. What's the biggest? X. And that's it, because there's no y's in the first terms. So if I divide this by 3x, I get x. If I divide the next term by 3x, I get 4x squared. And if I divide this by 3x, I get 5y. All right, that's a shorter lesson. I'd like you to try exercise 4. Okay, you'll be doing lots of common factoring, so make sure you get used to it.